Okay.
That sounds so good. Yay. I can't wait.
We'll have to start a book club for this one.
Yeah, warning received. But I mean, I really liked Convenience Store Woman, so I'm going to give it a shot.
It's not Convenience Store Woman Part 2.
Good.
Which is fine.
You didn't hear that part yet.
I heard you loud and clear, Liz. Loud and
All
clear.
right. Good.
All right.
Welcome to Keep It Fictional, a weekly podcast for book lovers by book lovers. Build your to-be-read list with Sadie, Liz, Virginia, Fiona, and Corrine from the Port Moody Public Library. Warning, this podcast contains strong opinions and may cause an increase in your library holds list.
Hello, everyone. The crinkle of crisp leaves, pumpkin spice in the air, cuddly sweaters, a warm cup of Earl Grey in a mug in your hands, and most importantly, the biggest book release season of the year. I am, of course, talking about everyone's favorite season, fall. Welcome to the Keep It Fictional podcast by the Port Moody Public Library, where today we are going to talk all new fall releases. We're going to be talking about the titles that we are most looking forward to, from our favorite authors to brand new debuts. And we're each going to talk about the 5 top books that we are most looking forward to. We are joined as ever by our fellow readers, Fiona, Virginia, Liz, and Sadie, who also can't wait for fall. But I notice who isn't wearing a cuddly sweater.
I know it's too warm outside. I can't yet. I want it to be fall so bad, but I just cannot quite get into the fall mood when next week is supposed to be 27 degrees out. It's just,
if you love fall enough, you will be able to wear the sweater.
But part of why I love fall is the cold, crisp air, which it's not here. Sorry, right, Virginia? It's not happening yet.
The people who really like fall knows.
Exactly.
We don't want to fake it with our sweaters.
Yeah. We can be
Not
patient.
here.
We can to wait for
Fall
that
is
true
patient.
fall experience.
That's
Fall
right.
is patient,
Not
fall is
here.
kind.
Fall is kind. Yeah. Fall is cold.
Yep.
And fall is crisp.
That aside, this is actually going to be a very special fall in the book world, because all of the books that were supposed to be published early in the year, a lot of them have been pushed back to this fall. So it's looking to be maybe the biggest book release in fall maybe ever.
So exciting.
It's very exciting. Yeah, you've got the pleasure of all the books that were delayed coming out now, and then all the new stuff that was already planned for this year that you're going to be able to get your hands on. So choosing 5 was difficult, but we've all tried to choose some that are from our favorite authors and a little bit of authors that we maybe haven't read before. So to kick us off, we are going to turn over to Fiona. And Fiona, I want to know, what is your favorite thing about fall, and what is your first book?
Oh, you just threw that question on me. There's so many great things about fall. I think going to the pumpkin patch, or like picking apples, being with the vegetables and fruits growing is my favorite part of fall.
Every time I go to the pumpkin patch, I am as excited, if not more excited, than every single child that is there.
Yeah, and you're still doing the like, oh, but this one's nice too. Can we get 5 pumpkins? Is that too many?
No, it is not too many, Fiona. It is never too many pumpkins.
All right. Well, I'm excited for the pumpkins, and I'm also super excited for all the great books coming out this fall. So many. So the first one I chose is Charming as a Verb by Ben Felipe. And this is his second YA novel. I don't really know too much about it, but Ben Felipe, I believe he was born in Montreal to Asian parents, and he just has this really sassy voice that I enjoy. So I'm looking forward to kind of having more of that in this book. And I'm going to read a little bit of the blurb. So Charming as a Verb is about Henry Haltewanger, who can charm just about anyone. He is a star debater and a popular student at the prestigious Fate Academy. The dutiful first-generation Haitian son and the trusty dog walker for his wealthy New York neighbors. But his easy smile masks burning ambition to attend his dream school, Columbia University. And it sounds like there's going to be another classmate who is described as intense, whose name is Kareen. Yeah, not you, but the other Kareen. So, that's great. And it sounds like she is going to blackmail him, and they're going to have some sort of relationship develop, whether that's just negative or positive. I guess I will find out. So very excited for that one. I've got another YA that I am so excited for, and I might spend a bit more time on this one because it's the one I'm most looking forward to. It is called Punching the Air by Ibi Zeboy and Youssef Salam. So this is a novel written in verse about a young man who is wrongfully accused and incarcerated. And it is about how art and poetry get him through that process and sort of save his life. But what's really fascinating about it is that the co-writer Youssef Salam, the lead character is somewhat based on him. Youssef Salam was one of the Central Park Five who were wrongfully accused and then spent years in prison. So he's now a big a big advocate for improving the justice system and lives for incarcerated youth. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited that it's a novel in verse because sometimes it's nice to have that just like where it goes quickly. You can read through it, but it's just like such an important topic that I feel like it will be very engaging, even if it is a bit of a quick read.
That's awesome. Thank you, Fiona. Those both look like great titles. All right. Next up is me. And I am going to talk about the first book that I was actually most attracted to the cover. And then I realized that it is an author that I have recently started following because of Spaceopoly is P. Djele Clark, who wrote The Haunting of Tramcar 015. And his new book with like the most amazing cover, I think, of the fall, which is his Ring Shout. So it is 1915, and the Birth of the Nation movie has just come out. If you're not familiar with that film, don't bother. Look up the Wikipedia article because it is awful. It's essentially Cecil B. DeMille's racist, I don't even know, thesis? It's his thesis. It's a horrible movie. But I love that P. Djele Clark is taking it and giving it like a little bit of a supernatural twist. So in this book, what happens is when the movie comes out, it kind of casts a spell over America. And it kind of increases people's interest in the Ku Klux Klan. So they start joining it. So there's a little bit of a magical element to that. And it's kind of encouraging all the white people to think like their darkest, most evil thoughts. And across the nation, they're starting to do their rides, spreading fear and violence among the vulnerable. And their ultimate plan is to bring hell to earth. But standing in their way is Maurice Boudreau and her fellow resistance fighters, a foul-mouthed sharpshooter and a Harlem hell fighter. And so armed with blade, bullet, and bomb, they are going to hunt their hunters and send the Klan's demons straight back to hell. It sounds great. I love the world building that he does in his books. Each one of them is like a very complete world. This is looking to be another novella. It's about 160 pages, so quite short. So perfect for like a weekend read where you want to get a little bit of a supernatural and a little bit of a think. So I'm going to pass it on to Virginia. So Virginia, what is your favorite part about fall and what's your book?
You should tell us first. What is your favorite part about fall? You haven't said that yet, Corinne.
It's the clothes. The clothes. I finally feel warm because I'm always cold. So fall is the only time that I feel warm.
Okay, sure. Favorite part of fall is probably the crisp air and that it is no longer hot.
You just hate summer. You just hate
summer.
I
do. I can't wait for it to go away. So that sounds amazing, that book. I have that on my list Corinne, that sounds like a great one. I'll go start with the book that I've been looking forward to for like a whole year already. So this is The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie. I will read anything that Joe writes. I don't care what it is. I will read anything. He's one of those authors that I know it's going to take me some time to read because I like to really sit and enjoy every single word and every single sentence that comes out of him because he's just amazing. Like we're talking about like reading out loud last week. This is one of those writers I feel like I always have to like read his sentence out loud because it is so good. But anyway, this is the second book in the series, and it is it is a fantasy. It's sold as a fantasy, but at least in the first book, it's almost not a fantasy because magic plays very little part in it. It exists because it talks about a world where the Industrial Revolution has come. And so there's new wealth, new class of people, new powers, and all this industry, all this commerce, all of that is disrupting like the world that they know, which is full of sort of magic and all of that. And so just everything is being replaced in some way. So there's a lot of like people who are exploiting what's happening. And then there's also people who are fighting against it. So that's kind of the world that it is. But I think with most of his books, it's all about the characters. Like he writes really, really good characters. In this new series, all the characters are tied to or they're family members of characters from his previous series, and they are trying to make their mark on this world. Everything is evolving, everything is changing, and everything is very messy. And he writes grimdark fantasy, so it's brutal, it's gritty, it's intense stuff. So it's not for everybody, but I enjoy every single thing that he does. So I cannot wait for this one to come out. And I was told I'm allowed to give a little shout out. The other book, of course, that is coming out, the other sequel is Brandon Sanderson, Rhythm of War, fourth book in the Stormlight Archive. I'm waiting for this another 1,000 pages of goodness. I binge read that series just a couple years ago, so I'm pretty new to the series, but I'm just can't wait.
1,000 pages?
Oh, those 3,000 pages went by so quickly. It was so fast.
So I guess if you're looking for like a new series to pick up over the long weekend and you really want to stick to that long theme, that might be a series that you could pick up.
It just flies by. It's fine. So
All right, next we move over to Liz. So Liz, what is your favorite part about fall and what is your first book for us?
My favorite part about fall, I think I'd have to agree with you, Corinne. It's the fashion, or even just not so much the fashion, but being able to wear my big fuzzy reading socks in the house all the time, 24/7, and just be in total comfort. So to me, that is a wonderful thing that I really look forward to. Yeah, reading socks. I really recommend those. And you may want to read those, wear those rather, while you're reading this book called Leave the World Behind, and it's by Rumaan Alam. And so this book caught my attention, not just because of the sort of soothing cover, which seems contradictory to the plot, but also the plot itself, which seems very timely and sort of like a sociological look at what happens when two families who are strangers to each other are forced together under trying circumstances. So the premise of the story is that a couple takes their family out to a vacation home on Long Island. They're escaping New York City and looking to get away, have a little bit of R&R and a bit of luxury. But a late night knock on the door brings a couple named Ruth and GH, and they happen to own the house. They have been renting the house to this couple from the city. But now the owners have arrived in the middle of this vacation, and they're in a panic. So what they are telling this couple who's vacationing is that something catastrophic has happened. So TV and internet are down. There's no cell phone service. Basically, communication is cut off. And now the four of them are in this rural area, and the couple is wanting to stay in their own home. So they're not evicting the vacationers, but they've said, can we all just stay here together and ride this out, whatever this may be? So the publisher says that this book, Leave the World Behind, is suspenseful and provocative and keenly attuned to the complexities of parenthood, race, and class. So if this lives up to its billing, then I'm really looking forward to this sort of sociological look at how different people come together or maybe tear each other apart within a time of crisis.
That sounds really spooky.
Right up my alley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
real
not yours.
spooky. No.
I'll let
All right.
you know.
Yeah. Let me know if it's a cream book or if it's not a cream book. All right, next we move over to Sadie, who cannot wait for fall. Sadie, what is your favorite part about fall, and what book are you going to grace us with first?
There are honestly too many things to pick about fall that I love. Like if I could take what each of you have said, I love the clothes, I love the scarves, I love the sweaters. Alternate what you said, Corrine, I am always hot. And so the fall and winter is the one time where I can put on sweaters and scarves and not just be overheated, which is very, very exciting. I love the idea of curling up under a blanket with a cup of tea and some fuzzy socks on. As I said, I am like pumpkin patches are basically my Disneyland. I could spend all of my time in pumpkin patches and never get bored of them. I just absolutely love all things pumpkin, and the crisp air is just the most wonderful thing, and the leaves, and it's my favorite season. I love absolutely everything about fall. So I'm very excited for fall, very, very excited, as well as very excited for the books that are coming out. So the first book I'm going to talk about is called A Stitch in Time, and it is by Kelly Armstrong. Similar to what Virginia was saying, Kelly Armstrong is one of those authors that I will read absolutely everything that she writes, no matter what it is. She is the author who initially got me interested in reading mystery books. I never read mystery before until she started writing mystery, and then I had to start reading mystery. And so just having her come out with anything gets me very, very excited. This particular book is a sort of billed as a paranormal historical romance, I think are kind of the tags that have been used to describe it. It involves time travel, which I always really enjoy, historical fiction, as well as some sort of paranormal aspect to it. So this book revolves around Bronwyn Dale, and Bronwyn Dale's family home, Thorn Manor, has always been haunted, and it has always haunted Bronwyn. So as a young girl, Bronwyn could pass through a time slip in her great-aunt's house, where she visited William Thorne. And William Thorne was a boy her own age, but born 2 centuries earlier. After family tragedy, the house is closed up, and Bronwyn is convinced that William existed only in her imagination. But now, 20 years later, Bronwyn actually inherits Thorn Manor, and she discovers that she can, in fact, go back to see William, and when she gets there, he has been waiting for her. But he's no longer the boy that she remembers. He's difficult. His own life has been marred by tragedy and scandal, and he has exiled himself into his home in the manor. So I'm really excited to kind of see what happens with this story. Her characters, Kelly Armstrong's characters, are always really, really wonderful. So I'm very excited. She always writes very strong female characters. So I'm excited to see what kind of character Bronwyn turns out to be. And yeah, I cannot wait to read it.
I think we are ready for another round of new books. There's just so much to cover. There's thousands and thousands of books coming out, and it's so hard to choose 5. So I'm going to move it over to Fiona to get her second pick of the season.
And I also already talked about 2 of my books, so I'm sorry, I'm ahead of everybody. We'll pretend that, I don't know what we'll pretend, but this is my 3rd book. So my 3rd book is The Barren Grounds by David A. Robertson, and it is a middle grade book, and it is being billed as Narnia meets traditional Indigenous stories. So that sounds pretty exciting. It's about 2 kids, Morgan and Eli, who are Indigenous, and they are in the foster system, which causes them to feel very disconnected from their heritage. But in this foster home, they find a secret door in the attic bedroom that leads them to another reality, and it's on the Barren Grounds. So it's very cold, and I'm really excited about the cover because, as you can see, there's a squirrel and a bear. It's beautiful and also, yeah, very exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm cautiously optimistic. I follow David A. Robertson's graphic novels pretty closely, and I love his graphic novels and his picture books. But the novels I've read of I've been a little bit disappointed. So I'm sort of like preparing to not be crazy about it, but it's just like the concept sounds so exciting. So I will let you know how that one ends up going.
We'll have to do like a follow-up episode sometime in January where we decide what we thought about all the books that we were promoting. Okay, so the second book that I am going to talk about is kind of on Fiona's theme. It is a middle grade book, and it is Twins by Varian Johnson and pictures by Shannon Wright. I'm really excited about this one because I really enjoyed Varian Johnson's previous books. This is his first graphic novel. He did The Parker Inheritance, which came out earlier this year, I think, which I really, really enjoyed, maybe last year actually, which I really, really enjoyed. I think he's a great author of middle grade fiction. He just kind of takes big ideas and big concepts and puts them in just the right spot. Just always gets it right in what he's talking about. So I'm excited about this one. This one is a graphic novel. So he has worked with Shannon Wright to do all of the pictures, and they're looking great. And it is about, as you can probably guess, twins. So it is about two twin sisters, and they are twins, they're best friends, and they always do the same things. So they always join the same clubs, they always enjoy the same food, they have the same group of friends, and they are each other's partner on all of their school projects. But they have just started middle school. And that is when one of the sisters, Francine, decides that she's no longer Francine. She's Fran. And Fran is cool, and she wants to join the chorus, and she wants to be the club president, and she wants to dress in fashionable outfits now. And she doesn't want to be really known as just Maureen's twin. So this is a story about growing up. It's about sisterhood. It's about kind of finding your own path. And it's about that kind of like, that transition from being children into middle school where you're starting to grow up. I think this is a wonderful, diverse addition to the kind of graphic novels about middle school, about kind of growing up. I love the cover. I love the characters so far, and I can't wait to read it when it comes out in October. Maybe like a bit of a birthday present for me. Just a birthday present.
I'm very jealous that your birthday is in October, Corinne.
It's the best month. It's the best month. Everything good. Everything is spooky. Everything is crisp and cold. You always think that trick-or-treating is just about you.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to everyone's house and they give you candy for your birthday. It's amazing.
It's the best holiday. The best. All right. We are going to swing it over to Virginia for her second pick.
All right. Of course, I have more fantasy for everybody. This is my second pick, which is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. I picked this as a new epic fantasy series, and I pick it mainly because of the publisher. Orbit Books is one of my favorite imprints. They do so many interesting fantasy series and novels. I also love how they pay attention to sort of a lot of the self-published authors, and then they give them wider releases. So a lot of the fantasy series that are originally self-published is now published by Orbit. So it's great. Like they do really, really interesting things. So Andrea Stewart is a Chinese Scottish American author. So this is an Asian-inspired fantasy series, and the premise is that there is the magic in here is they're all to do with bones. The emperor, who is the only one who could do this particular kind of magic, demands a bone shard from every single person in his empire. So there's like a ritual that everybody goes through, and we don't really know what he does with it, but it seems like he does engraving on the bones, and that's how he create magic to power these like animal-like things that keep peace and allegedly keep everybody safe in the empire. And only he knows the secrets of behind this all bone shard magic. So the book have sort of two main point of views. We have his daughter, Lynn, who is supposed to be the heir to the throne, but her father is not really trusting her with the secrets, like, and he's not telling her how this whole bone magic worked, because something happened to Lynn and she can't remember anything from her childhood to about 5 years ago. Like, she has no memory of any of that. And it seems like until she can remember all that stuff, her father is not going to tell her the secrets. So she's trying to prove herself to be worthy of, as an heir. And then we have the other main character, and he is sort of caught in the rebellion because like the whole empire is really restless. Like, they're not happy the fact that they have to give a bone shard to like the emperor. And so there's like a rebellion brewing in there. And he was the one who smuggled one of the kids out before they can actually perform the ritual on him. And so he's got kind of get caught in all the politics of it. I don't know much more about the book, but I'm really looking forward to this. And sort of like Fiona said on her cover, she sees a squirrel and a bear, and that sounds promising. Apparently there's a talking animal companion in this book, which I'm looking forward to reading. So this is Bone Shard Daughter by Andrew Stewart, coming out in September.
That sounds great. I can understand why people would rebel if they were trying to remove bits of bone.
Yep, agree.
Legit. All right, Liz, what book do you have for us?
I have a book called Earthlings by Sayaka Murata, and that's coming out in October. Now you see this cute and cuddly hedgehog on the cover. It's by the woman who wrote Convenience Store Woman, originally published in Japanese and then translated into English. You're thinking, oh, great, this is going to be a nice, light read. I'll be happy and warm and fuzzy after I read it. No, I'm going to tell you right a specific demographic of listeners and viewers out there. Disclaimer, I have read an advanced copy of this book. So I am here to warn you that if you are thinking that this is going to be another convenience store woman, you are terribly mistaken. So the premise of Earthlings is that Natsuki is a child who has a very difficult life. She's growing up in a family who doesn't really show her much tenderness. Her sister is favored, quite obviously. And so she turns to her best friend, which is a plush toy hedgehog named Piet. Now, Piet has explained to her that he has come from the planet Poppinpavopia, and he's on a special quest to help Natsuki save the Earth. To add to this, her cousin Yu, who is her favorite cousin in the entire family, confides to her that he is also an extraterrestrial, and that he is always searching for the spaceship that will take him back to his home planet. So because of this, Natsuki ends up wondering if she might be an alien herself. Now, we move from Natsuki's childhood into her adulthood in the second part of the book, and she's still not satisfied with her place on Earth. She still remembers all of her conversations with you and with Piet about being from other planets. And Natsuki herself, she feels like she's being forced into a society that's essentially what she calls a baby factory. So get married, have a baby, quit your job, be a homemaker. And to her, she feels like, this is not the life for me. If this is what humans do, maybe I am not human as I suspect. So that might all seem kind of not particularly gory or gruesome or graphic, but I do want to warn you that this book gets really, really weird. Not for the faint of heart, I'd say, especially if you're expecting some kind of a slice of life book. This may not be for you. So I really enjoy this one, but I'm putting a caution on that.
Okay.
That sounds so good. Yay. I can't wait.
We'll have to start a book club for this one.
Yeah, warning received. But I really liked Convenience Store Woman, so I'm going to give it a shot.
It's not Convenience Store Woman Part 2.
Good.
Which is fine.
You didn't hear that part, yeah.
I heard you loud and clear, Liz. Loud and
All
clear.
right. Good.
All right. let's go over to see what Sadie has up next.
Okay, so this one is actually the third book of a series, and similar to Corrine and Fiona for this round, it is a middle grade title, and it is Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. And this is in the Nevermore series, which follows. I'm not going to say too much about this specific book for anyone who has not read the first two books of the series, but I'll give you kind of the premise of the series itself. It follows a young girl named Morrigan, and Morrigan is unfortunately cursed. She was born on the wrong day, and that means that she is one of the cursed children. Sadly, this means that on her 11th birthday, she has been destined to die. Everybody who she lives around in her town, they're all pretty happy about this because a lot of bad things happen, and because of her curse, it's obviously her fault. So on her 11th birthday, she is provided with an out, and Morgan decides to take this out and is brought to this alternative world called Nevermore. And it is a world where magic exists. It is a world where she is no longer cursed. And it is a world where she gets to experience all kinds of absolutely amazing, but also pretty terrifying things as she learns kind of more about why she is there and the abilities that she herself has. So as I said, this is now the third book of the series. I absolutely loved the first two books. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, the first one, which I don't often do. I kind of see it a little bit as Harry Potter with a female lead, just because it kind of has the same premise of a young child learning that they have some sort of magical abilities, which I really like in books, where that moment when you kind of learn that there's more to life and there's more to the world than you thought it was. So if that sounds up your alley, I would recommend starting with The Trials of Morrigan Crow, which is the first book. And then this is the third one, Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morrigan Crow. I'm very, very excited about it. And I think, Virginia, I think you have read these ones as well.
Mm-hmm. Very, very good. Very good.
Mm-hmm. Very excellent. All right, swinging it back over to you, Fiona.
Okay, so I am onto graphic novels. The next book I'm excited for is Swamp Thing, and it is written by Maggie Stiefvater, who is the author of The Raven Cycle, which is a YA series that I love. Okay, and so this is a graphic novel, and it is also a reboot of Swamp Thing. So it is from DC. The pictures are by Morgan Beam, and I haven't read any of their stuff yet, so I'm not sure about the artist. But for those of you who don't know Swamp Thing, okay, so here's why I'm kind of excited, because Swamp Thing is great. I love monsters. I don't like horror, but I really love monsters. And Swamp Thing fits so perfectly in that sort of campy, ridiculous, he's a scientist who I think essentially turns himself into a swamp thing, and then spooks people, but he's not a monster that hurts people, but he's very dark and broody. I haven't read anything recent about Swamp Thing, so reading back to Alan Moore, it's not the most complex, which I think helps with the camp. It's just a genre that is fun and spooky feelings to read. So because I like Swamp Thing, but I don't feel like it's something that can be ruined, I'm really excited about this reboot. I imagine it's gonna be so silly and probably not anything at all original Swamp Thing, but I think that could be good. And so essentially it's about 2 twins, Alec and Walker, and they are in a rural area for their last summer living with their cousin. So it's, I think, their last summer before college. Yeah. And so Walker kind of inserts himself into the social scene and is pretty well adjusted, whereas Alec has brought this summer project to work on in the laboratory. And so he is working on this experiment, and the description says that will soon consume him. It sounds great. It says it is a story of shadows, both literal and imagined, and those that take from and haunt us. So great, creepy fall read that probably won't actually be that creepy.
I like it. I also enjoy how you gave us a review of Alan Moore's Swamp Man, kind of like snuck in there. So good. All right. As my next book is by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, and she is one of my favorite middle school authors out there. She has won the Newbery Honor, I believe. She's the author of The War That Saved My Life and The War That I Finally Won, which is a duology, which I think is beautiful and powerful and important, and I think everyone should read it. And it looks like her follow-up to that series is going to be kind of equally as groundbreaking and as important. Her newest book that is coming out is called Fighting Words. And it is about two sisters, the younger Della and the older Suki. And they have had a rough beginning, but Della has always known that her older sister is there for her. Her older sister is there to protect her. So when their mom is sent to prison, Suki takes care of Della. When they are taken into custody by their mother's boyfriend and their boyfriend does something horrible, Della always has Suki. And when that boyfriend does something so awful and so terrible that they have to run away in the middle of the night, Della knows that Suki will always take care of her. Suki is her protector. She calls her wolf. But all this time, Della realizes that no one has been protecting Suki. So when Suki attempts suicide, Della starts to dig deep into what has happened in Suki's life while she has been busy protecting her own sister. And Della feels like maybe it is time to be loud and to be her own wolf for her own sister. So this is going to be a difficult read. It is talking about kind of the stigma around child sexual abuse. It is not a topic that I would say has really been dealt with in middle grade literature. It is going to be a heavy book. It is going to be a book that's dealing with the trauma of these young children. But what I think is so encouraging is that there are books being published on this subject for children. So I think it's going to be a really, really important read for everyone. And I really, truly believe that in the hands of this author, that it could be something amazing that will really, really have an impact on middle school literature for a long time to go. So that is Fighting Words. And I'm really excited for it to come out this fall. All right. Next up, we have Virginia.
All right. So taking a little bit of a break from fantasy. I do every now and then. This I know, right? Every season I have like one book that is supposed to be like the heartwarming book. This might be it, I think. It is called Set My Heart to 5 by Simon Stevenson. Simon Stevenson is apparently a former Pixar screenwriter. So you can tell it's going to be all the feelings and all the tears, probably. So the book is set in the future, in the year 2054, when Elon Musk has destroyed the moon and people are locked out of the internet because no one can remember the password anymore. And it's about a dentist named Jared. And one day, Jared was watching a screening of a classic movie because since they can't get on the internet, the only way you can watch movies is go to the theater to watch a movie. He was sitting there and he noticed there's something wrong with his eyes. Like, there's just something happening. And then when the lights turn on, he realized he's crying. But he's not supposed to be crying because he's a robot. He's a robot that is sort of have like human skin and sort of designed to be like a human, but he's a robot and he doesn't know why he's crying. So the book is about him heading out to find out are there other robots like him that are feeling emotions? So the tagline for the book is, feelings can be a real pain, especially if you're not supposed to have them. And it is also called a existentialist android novel, which I'm all for. Supposed to be a love letter to outsiders everywhere. And it is really about what it means to be a human being. So I'm looking forward to that. The author said that he wanted to write a book that is about a world that's gone wrong, but not like crazy wrong, like a dystopia. Like he doesn't want that, just a little bit wrong. And sometimes when things go wrong, it often goes wrong in a very kind of like an ironic, kind of funny way. And that's kind of what he wants to capture in this book. And there's already a movie in the works by the people who does Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So I am looking forward to this. So again, it's called Set My Heart to 5 by Simon Stevenson.
Oh, now I'm super excited about
Right?
it.
It sounds really
Is it
cool.
Is it Edgar Wright that is
Yes.
directing it?
Yes. So yeah, right? Yes. So it's
I love that Corrine and
That's
Fiona had
awesome.
literally the exact same response
Right.
to that.
We're pumped. We're pumped.
Yeah.
All right, Liz.
Well, to take it back slightly into the fantasy realm, I've got my next book as The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and it's by V.E. Schwab. Now, I haven't read this author before, but the premise of this book sounded interesting to me. It sounds a lot like a movie that I have seen a couple years ago, and it's called The Life of Adeline. So, like the movie, which I'm pretty sure has no association with this book, in this book, a woman is granted immortality. So she's made a bargain, we don't know with who yet, to live forever. Now, this has taken place in France in the 1700s. There is another caveat to not just living forever. It's that she is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. So this book, it's being billed sort of as an epic that takes place across centuries, where we look at Addie's life as she lives throughout different periods of history, and basically comes to terms with how she essentially feels like she's not able to leave a legacy at any point in time. However, after 300 years, so around our present day, present time, Addie stumbles across a young man in a hidden bookstore, and he remembers her name. So I'm actually kind of excited about this one because of sort of all the possibilities that it has, being kind of like a bit of a fantasy, a bit of a historical fiction, and then taking us into the present day and kind of coming to terms with, what would you do and feel if you lived for centuries and basically had to uproot your life every lifetime or so.
And I think that's maybe one of Sadie's favorite authors.
I really like V.E. Schwab. Yeah. I've read her older, kind of her adult fantasy, as well as she writes middle grade fantasy, not really horror, but fantasy about ghosts. Yeah. Under Victoria Schwab as well, which, I like her. That is also on my to-read list for the fall, so I'm very excited. All right. So my next title, actually, I think that Corrine first got me onto this series. And this is now the 5th book in the series. So again, I won't explain too much about the specific book. But this one is called Murder on Cold Street by Sherry Thomas. And this is, maybe did you get, I'm trying to remember if you got me hooked on this one, Corrine. I don't remember, actually.
It could have been the cover, because you are fond of books with women who are running away and then looking over their shoulder.
I know, right? I pointed this out, that 2 of my covers now have almost the exact same photo on the front of them, which is strange. So anyways, so this is now the 5th book in the series. It's called the Lady Sherlock series. So it is a take on Sherlock Holmes, but with a female protagonist named Charlotte Holmes. So it takes place in Victorian London, and kind of follows a similar format of each book has a crime or a murder that this character Charlotte is solving, and they play a little bit with the idea that people will probably not listen to her because she is a woman, and so she finds ways to still solve these cases and kind of get her name out there without people realizing that she is a woman. And this specific book follows her friend Inspector Treadles, and he has now been found locked in a room with 2 dead men, and he is now being accused of their murder. So I'll just read a little bit. It says that Charlotte finds herself in a case strewn with lies and secrets, but which lies are to cover up small sins and which secrets would flay open a past better left forgotten. So if you're into historical mysteries, if you like Sherlock Holmes and want a bit of a different spin on the same kind of stories, the same crime, mystery, murder, light, I like to call it. I don't do heavy mystery, heavy murder, but this is more mystery light. Then I would definitely recommend this one. And again, that is Murder on Cold Street by Sherry Thomas. The first book in the series is called A Study in Scarlet Women. And that is the Lady Sherlock series.
It's a great series.
It's such a good series. Yeah.
Good.
Is anyone going to watch the Enola Holmes?
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
The books are great. The books
Yes.
are very good.
Yeah. So Netflix.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic. Looks so good. I'm very excited.
And it's got 11 in it, so who cares about anything else? It's got 11.
Sorry. Didn't care for it. Anyways, I believe, Fiona, this is your last book. So what have you chosen as your last one?
Okay, so my last book is another graphic novel, and it is an adaptation of The Witches by Roald Dahl. So The Witches is actually my favorite Roald Dahl book, I think. If you're a fan, if your kids are a fan, just read this one regardless. But now there's a graphic novel of it, and it's, oh boy, it's not just one of those ones that's like, you know what kids like? Graphic novels. Let's make everything into a graphic novel. Because it is, well, man, I'm so biased. But because Penelope Bajou is the artist, and she is French graphic novel artist, who I absolutely love. California Dreaming is, she wrote about Cass Elliot of the Mamas and Papas. Oh my gosh, you will never think about the Mamas and Papas the same. If you think about them at all. Anyway, and she's also written one called Brazen, which is just like a collection of biographies about like strong women throughout history. So I really, really love this artist, and I really love this book. So I'm just so stoked. And oh yeah, and I guess I should tell you, so Witches is basically about like, witches are real, and they're in everyday life. You might just not notice them, and they're very dangerous. They like to eat children and turn them into mice.
That is great, Fiona. I'm so much more excited about the graphic novel than I am about the movie starring Angelica Houston, which was like terrifying.
Oh, but I love it so much. It's so bad, but it's so good.
That explains a tremendous amount about you.
Swamp Thing, witches, Dracula last week.
All right. I'm going to choose my penultimate pick as one of my favorite authors, who I really like their standalones versus their series. So this is the author of Uprooted. This is the author of Spinning Silver. And this is her newest book, which is coming out in the fall, which is billed as a brand new series for her. So I'm pretty pumped. And it is called A Deadly Education. And I am talking about one of my fave authors, Naomi Novik. So this book, I think it's like, and I hate to kind of like distill it into this terms, but it's like Harry Potter. If Harry Potter met Hunger Games, so you went to a magical school if you had magic, but the only way to kind of graduate is not to get murdered. So a little bit more intense than your average high school. So it is set at the Schoolomance, a school for the magically gifted, where failure means failure of a permanent sort because you're murdered. And one girl, our main character, Elle, is discovering the many secrets of the schools because there's no teachers, there's no holidays, there's no friends at Schoolomance. There's only survival. And there's only a couple of rules to this school. One of them is don't walk the halls alone and beware the monsters who lurk everywhere. And Elle is kind of uniquely suited to maybe be one of the few graduates of this school because she is a person with a lot of secrets. She's very powerful sorcerer. But what her classmates don't know is that she is probably strong enough to level mountains and wipe out millions if she so chooses. So it's going to be a little bit of a knife's point to see exactly how she graduates the school without genocide. But because it's Naomi Novak, I know it's going to be funny and interesting, and it's going to make you feel all the feels. So I'm very excited about this one. She's one of the fantasy authors that I always pick up when there is something by her. And speaking of fantasy...
How do you know I'm going to go back to fantasy? Yes, I am.
I just know.
Surprise. So always looking for new fantasy authors. And I think all of us are trying to read like more diverse authors. And so this is one I, again, know nothing about, but this is not her debut novel. This is Master of Poisons by Andrea Hairston. Also first name Andrea. Maybe that's the theme for the fall, I guess. So this is an African-American author. She wrote this book because she says she wants to write herself out of the hopelessness that we all feel as we are facing what's going on around the world. And that's kind of what she wanted to do. So I think this is going to be, unlike most of my other books, it's going to be like the hopeful kind of book, a hopeful kind of fantasy. So in here we have like a poison that is basically like spreading all around the kingdom. And the king's advisor, the Jola, has been telling them that this is going to happen, but nobody cares. And it's now a little bit too late. So this poison is like killing basically everything that is in its vicinity. And the Jola is trying to figure out how to save the world. And then we also have Awa, who's learning to be I think they call it a griot, which is a storyteller, like a bard, a poet, and she's trying to, and with magic. And so she's sort of testing out her limits, learning her magic. Not really sure how these two characters are going to, meet. And so I'm looking forward to it because I think this is sort of like, it's the whole climate change, like people that are not listening, people who are like, we're all trying to survive a world that we have kind of all contributed to, and that there's people in denial. And that's kind of what she's dealing with is people who just don't believe that this is happening. And according to the publisher, there's going to be wild dogs, there's going to be pirate queens, there's going to be floating cities, protective bees, war horses, hungry elephants, and angry rivers. So I'm looking forward to that. So an African-inspired fantasy novel, and it's lots of, apparently she put in lots of folklore and she did a lot of research on that. So I'm looking forward to a new author to read.
That sounds great. Really, really good. So Liz, what do you have for us next?
So I haven't read any memoirs lately. That's one of my kind of go-to genres. And I haven't really read any food writing lately, so whether that be fiction or nonfiction. Again, another one of my go-to genres. So this upcoming release called Eat a Peach by David Chang and Gabe Ula, this checks off both boxes. So if the name David Chang sounds familiar, it's because he is a famous chef known for a restaurant called Momofuku. And you may have also seen him on Netflix. So he's got a show called Ugly Delicious. So in Eat a Peach, it's essentially his memoir of not just how he came to be one of the most famous restaurateurs on television, but also about his upbringing as part of a Korean-American family in the state of Virginia. So in this memoir, he comes to terms with what his life as part of an immigrant family, how that shaped him. Also, he's very candid and humorous, as he is on television, in this book about his struggles with mental illness, and how along the way he somehow fell into becoming a restaurateur, and how that's kind of saved him in a way, and where he's going to go next. So really looking forward to this one. Food writing, memoir writing, two of my great genres.
That is a great pick. He is a delight. A delight.
He is. No holds, no filter on television. So looking forward to the book version of him.
That sounds great. All right, Sadie.
Okay, talking about no filter, I think this fits in very well. So this is actually, surprisingly, a nonfiction book, is my next pick. Now, I do not read a lot of nonfiction, but this book, if you know me, will make perfect sense. So it is I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are by Rachel Bloom. So Rachel Bloom is most well known for being the writer, creator, and star of the musical dramedy Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. If you like musical theater, if you like comedy mixed with a very, very real dose of very serious topics, they discuss alcoholism, they discuss mental illness, they have very diverse cast of characters. I would highly recommend the show. It is no longer on TV, and it unfortunately is not on Netflix, but if you can find a way to get it, I would recommend watching the show. So Rachel Bloom, is one of the creators of that show. She has a background in musical theater and writing and comedy. And this is kind of compared in a way to similar books as Mindy Kaling, Ali Wong, and Amy Poehler have put out. So it is a series of what they say is laugh out loud essays, all told in the unique voice, sometimes a singing voice, that has made Rachel Bloom a star. So Rachel writes about everything from her love of Disney, OCD and depression, weirdness, and female friendships, all to the story of how she didn't poop in a toilet until she was 4 years old. So as you can see, it's going to be a very unfiltered set of essays. The pieces, they say, are hilarious, smart, and infinitely relatable. I'm very excited for there to be an audiobook of this. Because again, I'm not a huge audiobook person, but the idea that some of these essays are going to be in song is very exciting to me to see what Rachel Bloom comes up with. I've seen her live in the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend live show, and she is an absolutely wonderful performer. So I'm very excited to see what her book writing is going to be like. So that, again, is I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are by Rachel Bloom. And I believe that is her actual dog pictured with her there.
So great.
So excited. Yeah, very excited. Coming out in November. Very excited.
Perfect. All right. Well, we have time for one last lightning round. Fiona, you're going to judge, and of the four of them, you're going to let us know which one you are most likely to actually pick up in this last round of 5. Are you ready, Fiona?
Yeah, I am so ready.
Okay. I already know I'm going to lose. My last book that I'm going to talk about is We Keep the Dead Close, A Murder at Harvard and a half century of silence. So this is a nonfiction true story. It starts in 1969, so it's the height of the counterculture. There are student protests at Harvard. And this is also the year that the all-female Radcliffe College is being merged with the larger Harvard campus. And this is the year that Jane Britton, she is 23 years old. She is a graduate student in Harvard's anthropology department, and she is found bludgeoned to death in her Cambridge, Massachusetts apartment. The case remains unsolved, and 40 years later, Becky Cooper is an undergraduate. So she is a journalist, and she starts to hear whispers of this story, almost like the campus legend of the graduate student who is having an affair with one of the professors, and then he murdered her in the Peabody Museum of Archaeology when she threatened to talk about the affair. So this rumor has been around in Harvard for 40 years. And Becky, she eventually ends up being a journalist, already has those instincts of trying to pick through what's the truth behind this and what is the rumor. And what follows is, I believe, almost 20 years or 10 to 20 years of her investigating this particular case and trying to get to the bottom of it. It is a tale of gender inequality in academia. It is a tale of a specific time, so the 1960s. It's a story about empowered male elites, the silencing effect of institutions, and our compulsion to rewrite the story of female victims, so to place them in specific roles, if you will. So We Keep the Dead Close is, as the back says, a memoir of mirrors, misogyny, and murder. So We Keep the Dead Close looks to be a fascinating dual story of gender roles in the past in academia and in the present. All right, we're going to flip it over. What do you think? What do you think, Fiona?
You sold that really well. I actually put it on my to-read list.
Yes! Victory! All right. Take that, Virginia. Go for it.
So my book is Canadian, Fiona. It's Canadian. Right? That's all. I'm done. So this, I just saved the book like that I'm most looking forward to the last. This is one that I just read the premise. I'm like, I need to read this now. This is called Hench by Natalie Sina Wolsgon. I don't know how to pronounce the word, but it's called Hench. And Hench is like sort of the sidekicks, the henchmen of supervillains. So this is also comic book, also related to comic book world, Fiona. It's not the henchmen that like you see when you're fighting alongside the supervillains. Those are called the meat. If you're the elite henchman, you're called the filet mignon of the meat. But these are not it. We're talking about the main characters here are the ones who order the office supplies, to do the admin work, who troubleshoot your computer, because even a supervillain needs someone to troubleshoot the computers when it goes wrong. So that's what this book, the characters are about. Our main character is Anna, and she is doing freelancing. So she's like, working with temp agency, and they would like suggest like assignments for them. Her specialty is to manipulate data. That's kind of her thing. And most of these hench people have some sort of like the tiny little bit of like superpower. For example, like her best friend June has like this really incredible sense of smell. So they use her to develop things that cannot be detected by like, the police dogs, for example, that kind of thing. But her specialty is data. That's what she's good at. And so she got hired by a supervillain called the Electric Eel. And she's supposed to be doing like behind the scene work, but she was forced to go on the field one day. It went terribly wrong, and she got really injured by the superhero who was trying to come and foil the evil plan of the supervillain. So as a result, she was injured. She was laid off. She can't work anymore. All her obsession now turns into like figuring out the kind of injuries that these superheroes cause in the world. Like how much harm are they doing, as opposed to how much good they're doing, and all the people that suffer, all the business, all the damages, all of that, and all the data. And she's trying to use that against the superheroes. And so in summary, the book is like a young woman discovers the greatest superpower, for good or ill, is a properly executed spreadsheet. And so that's what sold me. So spreadsheet, yes. So that is my book. So Canadian, remember, Fiona, Canadian.
That sounds really, really great.
I feel like that's not fair, Virginia. I feel like yeah. I feel like you've won right there.
All right. Take it away, Sadie.
Okay, I am very excited about this book. This is called Legendborn by Tracy Dion. And this is a new to me author. I think she has one other book out before this, and this is a retelling of the King Arthur story. So I do love a good retelling. This is a diverse retelling, features a young Black woman named Bree Matthews. After her mother dies in an accident, she wants nothing to do with her family memories or her childhood home. And then she learns about a program for bright high schoolers at UNC Chapel Hill. And she figures that might be the best escape to get away from her trauma and her grief and her family. But then the first night that she is there, she witnesses a magical attack. 3 things happen. She sees a flying demon feeding on human energy. She discovers a secret society called Legendborn, which are students who hunt these types of creatures down. And she is approached by a mysterious teenage mage who calls himself a Merlin and who attempts, but fails, to wipe out Bree's memory of everything that she saw. Because this mage failed, one of the side effects is that the magic actually unlocks Bree's own unique magical abilities and buried memories of her mother's death, which she starts to discover may be more connected to the Legendborn Society than she thought or than she knew. So I'm very excited about this one. Again, a diverse retelling of the King Arthur story. The Legendborn, it says, are revealed to be descendants of the King Arthur Knights. So I'm curious to know what Tracy Deonn does for this story and how she kind of turns the myth on its head and what happens. Not Canadian. I'm sorry.
Sadie had a tough go because I'm not a big fan of retellings or fantasy YA.
Yeah.
Tough sell.
It does have the tag LGBTQ. It does.
Okay, I'll put it on my to read list.
Yeah.
All right, Liz, are you with us? Do you have one last chance for the Fiona Crown?
I have a book called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Now, Fiona, can you not see how beautiful a cover this is? It takes place in a library, surprise, surprise, and I just noticed that there is a cat on the cover, a kitty cat, headed towards the library, even though the synopsis makes no mention of any animals talking or otherwise. So the premise of this book is that Nora finds herself in the Midnight Library, and she has the chance to make things right. Now, so far her life has not been a very happy one, and she has a lot of regrets, which is not an easy thing to live with. She feels she's let everyone down, including herself. But because she is at the Midnight Library, her life could very well change. So she has the opportunity to undo every one of her regrets and create her perfect life. However, as you can imagine, that might not be the best idea. So according to the synopsis of this book by the publisher, soon her choices place the library and herself in extreme danger. So not a completely fuzzy feel-good book, has a little bit of danger in there, which kind of saved it for me and sold me on it. So maybe it will be on your to-read list too, Fiona. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's got the word library in it.
And there's a cat on the cover?
Yeah. And only time can tell which one I'll read first.
Can we do an episode where Fiona just talks about all of them and decides which one wins?
I like that. And then whoever wins gets a little crown that they get to
Yes.
wear for the rest of the season.
Give me like 6 months.
Oh boy. So thank you so much for joining us. We really love sharing our fall picks with you. There's so many to choose from. We got through 25 books, but it seems like there are hundreds more that we could have talked about that are coming out soon at your local library. Of course, if you go to our webpage under new books, you can see what is on order. So what is on its way here, zooming towards Port Moody at this exact moment. We want to thank you all for watching and for sharing all the book love with us. Everyone get your cozy cup of tea.
Or
Your sweat.
coffee.
Coffee's fine. And we wish you a very happy Wednesday, and we'll see you next week for our next book chat. Cheers, everyone, and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. If you like our show, please tell a fellow book lover about it. You can find a list of all the books we discussed in our show notes. Join us next week for another fun book chat. Until then, keep it fictional.